Ta-da!
Oh wait, I was muted. Okay, now I'm better. Okay. I don't know how loud I am compared to you. You speak.
Hello. Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, I think I'm
If
on
I
par.
start if I start glitching out or sounding weird, let me know, because I have a feeling I know what it would be.
Why? What's happening? What
I
have you
am
done?
AFK on Minecraft right now.
Why?
I'm at a
And is
mob
this not
farm.
enough for you?
I'm at a mob farm getting levels because I died right before the pod started.
Let me guess, because of your own wrongdoings.
I fell.
So yes, your own wrongdoings.
It wouldn't have been a big deal if I hadn't lost my stuff last time. So I had no booties.
I don't... What? Booties?
Boots, shoes, feather falling.
Okay. Anyways. Hello everybody. Welcome to the pod. There is a topic, but I have a feeling we're going to veer very off course because of a lot of things that I have to talk about that happened in this week. Okay, so first, weekly obsessions. Go.
I mean, probably Minecraft.
It's always Minecraft.
I'm autistic. What do you want from me?
I want you to have a different obsession, or mix it up a bit. Maybe this week you could have been really into One Piece again. I don't know.
I mean, also my new job. There's also that, because I did get the job. I'm not obsessed, but it has been on my mind a lot because
It's also only happened 2 days this past week.
yes.
Not enough for him.
Yes, I started on Thursday, and it's all a lot, but
No, but stuff you know how to do them.
it's stuff I know how to do to a certain extent. The thing is, I was only helping manage one community. Now there's over 100 I have to try and figure out and memorize and figure out what I need to do for each one.
You have to memorize them?
It'll be easier if I memorize them. It's something that is, I don't necessarily have to memorize it, but I need to remember certain things about very specific communities. Like, okay, this one specifically has to go through such a rigmarole to rent the clubhouse. This one has 2 different gate stickers, because one can go on the headlight and one can go on the window. It's a whole thing. And
Headlight
the way
sticker. That seems dangerous.
Yes. It's reflective. It's, I don't know.
Even more
I hadn't
dangerous.
heard of it. I hadn't heard of it either until like Friday or something. And then it's just the way it is. It's also the front desk that I'm sitting at is the door we keep it locked. And we have some people on a that aren't allowed to come into the office in person. And like we have them trespassed and everything.
You get to trespass people?
If 2 specific people try to come in, yes.
Why those 2 specific people?
They apparently have like threatened the old receptionist and stuff.
I'm sure they'll be okay with the new receptionist.
So whenever people want to come in, they have to ring a doorbell, and then I have to like answer it and be like, "Hey, what do you want?"
Hey, what do you want to order? And they say, "Please, madam, I just want to see you."
They're all very, very, they being my coworkers are all very, very excited for me to be here, because they've been following, because as people have been like rotating out throughout the day who work other jobs in the office, but have been filling in for the receptionist. And so they've been falling behind on their work because they have to spend like 3 hours during the day doing receptionist stuff. And so they're very, very excited for me to be here, so they don't have to keep worrying about that. Especially because only one of those people knows how to do stuff like the mail and all of that stuff. So I get to learn how to I get to learn all of that stuff. This is a whole bunch, because I get to handle invoices. I get to handle different payments. So it's
paperwork, it seems like.
Yes, a lot of paperwork. And one of the things I've also learned about their current system is that they have a lot of binders for a lot of different things, and I
You do love organization.
I love organization. However, I'm starting to hate binders because they're very annoying and they're overfilled. And it's like, at what point do we get rid of stuff? Because you're running out of room in these binders. And I want it to be like, I want to try digitizing stuff at this point. I want to try keeping it all on my computer. It'll make it a lot easier. But then I was looking at the like the storage the storage capacity right now on the computer, and it's very, very little. So it's just
Because it's also filled with things already.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a case of once I've learned the basics, then I can start implementing my own systems and everything, and it'll be great.
You can start dismantling their setup and being like, listen.
That's what I'm thinking.
If you get an external hard drive, they should cover you for that cost.
Well, yeah, no, I would not be getting it myself. I would be saying, hey, is it a possibility that we can get an external hard drive specifically for this?
The only issue is
there's a few.
If it has like sensitive documents on it, though, that might be a potential hazard because it can be moved easily.
Potentially, honestly, my bigger concern is the fact that it would be a case of that I lost my train of thought.
I can tell.
That sometimes different people in the office would need to be able to access those documents. And if it would be an external hard drive specifically on my computer, they would not have easy access to it. And they do have kind of a cloud space through Microsoft Teams.
I was about to say they have to if they need access to files that are on
They
your
do,
computer.
except the issue is one of the things that I'm going to have to be doing is I'm going to have to be emailing a lot of homeowners different forms, like for clubhouse rentals, for architectural change forms, for all of these different forms. But every time I want to get a form, I have to go find it in Teams, first and foremost, and then I have to download it every single time. And it's very annoying when
Can you
I wish
not
I could
save
just...
like a copy?
I probably could, but I need to... There's over 100 different communities with all their own forms and everything. So it would be... that's not like a quick and done task. That's something I have to like do step by step.
I imagine it's making a lot of files with a lot of different community names.
Yes.
But that could be fun.
And each community has their own cam, so I have to look and see who manages this community, and then I have to send it to the right person and all that stuff.
I mean, I feel like it might take a while, but once you figure out like kind of the umbrella sort of what goes under what and what goes under that, it'll be pretty easy to organize it through that. And it would make your life way better, like in terms of finding things.
And I'm looking forward to one of the coworkers who has been spending time up at the front desk. We were like the first 2 days, trying to get everything set up. So I'm like trying to get my email set up, trying to see if I can go in to see to clock in, all of that stuff. And I'm messing around with the email, with Outlook and everything like that. And my coworker's watching me. It's like she's apparently in awe of me because I'm able to do everything on the computer so quickly, which I think is very funny.
How old is she?
I'm the youngest in the office by a decade.
Well, there
the
you go.
second youngest person in the office is 32.
That's still pretty young.
Oh yeah, but I'm still the baby, And it was just very funny because she was talking about like how I'm so quick with computers and everything, and I'm like,
Meanwhile,
sure,
it's
I
like
guess.
Windows Vista, and you're like, listen, you work with what you got.
There was something else. One of my bosses is really into D&D, and so we talked about D&D on my first day when we went to lunch.
Imagine you go into a workplace campaign.
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. You're right, because what if your character dies and then there's bitter resentment? And you can never get that back. Anyways.
But if I remember the actual thing I wanted to say. This job, or at least this company, is very, very nice in a way that I've never been at a company like this. First off, this is my first full-time job, so it's already so many more hours than I'm used to.
Which is surprising to me.
Why?
That CVS wasn't a full-time job, I guess.
Nope. It was part-time because I was working it while I was in high school, There was a brief time where I was kind of full-time, but not quite full-time between high school and college, and then college I only worked on the weekends.
It's weird.
So, but so this is a full-time job at the same pay rate as my last job, and we get paid holidays off. And also it's a bi-monthly, like pay cycle, which means we don't get it like every 2 weeks specifically, but we get one check in the middle of the month and then one at the end of the month. So it is mostly every 2 weeks, but it isn't always on the same day. Like there are a
That
few
makes it
times
even more confusing, but
they give us the specific days, but I know like I believe like there's a day at least in the middle of I think July or something where we get our paycheck on a Monday. So that'll be fun.
getting paid twice a month. Who heard
But
it?
that also means
Never.
that also, in a way, it also means that it has the potential for the paychecks to be bigger in one go.
Well, yeah, but it's still, no matter what, it's gonna be a bigger paycheck just because you're working full time.
This is true.
Yeah, even back when I worked at Panera, I typically had I worked every day in the week, except for weekends, like the weekdays, and it was typically a 6 to 8, almost 9-hour shift. Because if I ever got shifts in the morning, which they started doing much more often rather than in the beginning, because at the beginning I probably only did afternoon shifts for lunch rush, but then I did morning ones, and then they would always have, if I did morning ones, it would go into the afternoon lunch rush. But they would never have it to where I only did mornings. But there were some people that only did mornings, and you know what? I hated those people because they weren't very good at their job.
Yeah, the only job I can remember having that was anywhere near full time was when I worked with my dad. And I think I did technically work full time for a while, but I was still an intern, so I didn't get any of the benefits of it. And I then also got sick pretty soon after I started and had to go down to part-time. But that's also the only job I've ever worked that I didn't work weekends.
That's interesting that made you go to part-time getting sick.
Well, it was when I was getting really sick and I was constantly getting migraines like every single day. I was having stomach issues every single day. It made it so that getting out of bed was genuinely a challenge.
No, I
So
wonder if
it was
that
an
had to do
entire
with the job.
I mean, genuinely, maybe. Considering the thing that triggered it seems like, was we were all supposed to go out to lunch together, and I literally got such bad anxiety and like pure I had a full-on panic attack in the bathroom stall. Ended up throwing up.
Did you have to go to lunch?
Yeah, because they were going out to a sushi place, and I had such bad fucking anxiety surrounding
Like
that.
what you would eat or something?
Yeah, about what I would eat, about people asking why I wasn't eating, about the potential of being pressured into trying something and then getting sick.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of anxiety just surrounding that, but then also just people watching me eat as well makes me very anxious. So there's a lot, and so I was getting really scared also when it was coming up to Thursday, because one of the things that was asked was, hey, we'll take you out to lunch on your first day. Where would you like to go? And so I'm immediately I'm trying to make sure I don't get worked up. I'm not getting scared. And so I specifically respond. Yeah, and I specifically respond and I say, I have a very restrictive diet. I'm not allergic to anything, but I just have issues with that. So please don't excessively worry about that or anything like that. And when I got to the office on Thursday and everything, and it got to be lunchtime, and they were asking hey, where do you want to go? And I said I was very awkward. I was like, I am not very used to picking places because I'm very kind of what you consider a picky eater. But they were very, very kind about it. They were very, it's like, you pick. And we ended up going to Buffalo Wild Wings.
Interesting.
Partially because
chicken.
I knew there was something that I would eat there, but then also because of the boss who asked me about it, because I have two bosses in this. The boss who asked me about it Shut the fuck up. Did you not just hear me talk about how I literally had to go to part-time because of my experience with food? I had to, my boss who suggested it mentioned it because someone else in the office was like, really wanted Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do that. Start off on a good, on a good foot.
A people-pleasing foot.
Absolutely. And so, and it turns out like half the office is autistic as well, so they're like,
You're
they're
like,
not
my people. I mean, hey, if there's a time to find your people, it would definitely be in a workplace environment.
Yeah, so it's been very, very nice and very, very kind. And I've even like mentioned, like, I've mentioned the pod because people asked me about what I was.
Know why you mentioned that?
I did not go into detail about what the pod was. I just said it was a podcast that I did with my cousin.
Well, it's in the name.
And because people were asking me what I did on the weekends and everything like that, and I was explaining like, well, I have this Minecraft event I'm doing in Saturday afternoon, and then we're supposed to have D&D Saturday evening, and then I have the pod on Sunday, and I was also like on Friday night we have game night, so it was I was explaining, and so the Minecraft thing got brought up more because someone's one of my coworkers' sons, she mentioned how she's trying to figure out a way to help him find like a group of people to hang out with and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And how like if he was in a situation like a Minecraft server like I am, that it would be very good for him.
I mean, it's true. You do meet a lot of random people that'll just kind of do stuff with you.
And it's great.
That's so funny though. I also ran into that a lot whenever you have, it's like every older coworker that you typically have either has kids or has family that has kids, and so they're like my niece, my nephew, or like my son, my daughter, and I'm like, oh my gosh, dear God, I'm so young apparently. Because I feel like
they were talking about we talked about age a lot, and they kept talking about like certain things happening in certain years, and I'm like, my parents were in high school. I wasn't even a thought.
I remember I was talking to Kester, I think this past week, and I had mentioned that this was the year of the snake for the Chinese zodiac. And I was like, and it's my year because I'm the year of the snake. She's like, wait, really? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, oh my God, you're only 24? And I was like, Kester, we've been over this before. This should not be surprising at this point. No matter what, even if you feel old, you're technically a baby in someone's eyes. But then again, Kester's ancient, so. But, okay. Should I do my weekly obsession?
Yes,
No.
yes.
Okay, so technically, well, first of all, I would like to say a couple of words. Will you let me say a couple of words?
Yes.
So,
I'm scared.
No, from last time, I just want to say I had a very good week this week in terms of music because I found 17 new songs.
Oh my God.
Great, doing amazing. Some of them are off of a singular album, only 7 though, so 10 unique songs that I found by themselves and 7 off of an album. But, so that's that update, and I would say, I feel like this is just going to become a recurring thing, because I have, at this point, it's weekly obsessions. This is just one of them, but one of the songs that I found...
wait a minute.
What?
You're getting upset at me for my weekly obsession being Minecraft.
This isn't it. This is just something that I feel like at this point has become my own little corner of something I share every week. Whereas you just say, I'm obsessed with Minecraft, I've been playing a lot recently. I go into details as to what the songs are, why I like them, all that stuff.
Go into detail, I just figured you don't care.
Okay, so basically, out of the 17 songs, I would say one of them mainly stands out. One of them I think you should listen to, and also I listened to the 6 soundtrack, so I'm gonna get into it.
Oh boy, okay.
So, first song is the one that I recommend. It's called Shibuya, and it's by a girl named Kara Machida, and it is delicious. it to me sounds like a quintessential me bop because it has slow parts, it has fast parts, literally to the point where you're like, I don't know if this is in halftime or if the tempo has completely changed. And that's what I like about it. But it's a jam overall. Second, I would say the recommendation I have for you is a song called Street Pass Millionaire, and it's a glitchy little bop, and it's by Aquasign. And the reason I think you should listen to it is because it has a lot of references to 3DS. So
I mean, I hear Street Pass Millionaire, and I'm like,
it's like a glitchy little tune, if you will.
By Aquasign?
Yes. SINE, okay. Not SIGN. And yeah. Then the 6th note. So I listened to the 6th soundtrack that I found, which wasn't too many songs, but it was enough that it still took me at least half an hour. And I have a couple of notes. So
okay,
out of all of the tracks, I would say my favorite what do you think my favorite was out of all the tracks?
I think your favorite, if it's House of Holbein, I'm gonna lose it.
Why?
Just because it would make sense, but it'd also be so fucking funny because I don't even barely consider it a track.
What do you mean it's not a track? It's a song.
It's like it's the transitional piece.
Don't you slander my favorite song right now.
It's your favorite song.
Don't you slander my favorite song out of the entirety of the musical. Because that is pure genius right there. It is a Europop beat that mixes polka with Euro dance. And if you think it's not good, I don't like you anymore.
Oh, no. I think it's fantastic. It's very funny and very fitting that it would be your favorite.
Listen, it is the song off of the album that I was questioning the most and thinking this is definitely my favorite song. It's followed by probably Ex-Wives, because I think that one I enjoyed the second most.
Ex-Wives is so good. It's such a good, like, proper start to the musical.
And then
it's very good musically as well. So
I have other notes on the different songs. I'm not a slow jam kind of person, especially not a slow jam musical, because it gets so emotional in a different kind of way. So I wasn't all into those as much. But a note that I did make for so there's 2 songs that I liked, but I liked the latter part of them better in terms of like how it progressed, and I wish it was like that the entire song, which was I Don't Need Your Love and 6, which was the last one. I liked
entirely fair
how they their crescendo, if you will, and I wish that was how it was initially, and then it went even harder in the end. But I liked them overall. They just weren't in my faves. And then I swear to God, Get Down is a K-pop track.
That's my favorite song
because
in the entire thing.
It sounds straight up, I'm not even lying, it sounds like an ITZY song from JYP. It's a B-side of theirs. It is like a mix of Cherry with like Nobody Like You or something. And I swear, because when I heard the progression of it and how it went to the pre-chorus, I was like, I've heard this before. Because the first thing I thought when I heard the bass was, I was like, this sounds like Fancy. The Iggy Azalea one. And then it changed, and I was like, okay, this is definitely a K-pop song with how many different changes, but it sounds like very to that structure. But yeah, I didn't hate it overall. It did still sound, for certain tracks, like very musical music versus, say, House of Holbein, which is like the epitome of a musical track for me. Because you can't tell me that you weren't jamming when you first heard that. Because when that first came on and they started saying all the German to the dance track, I was like, am I tripping or something?
You obviously didn't see the actual musical part.
I'm sure it looks just as weird.
To be fair, as far as the actual like visual part of the musical goes, that is probably my favorite part of the musical, as far as just how, because it is absolutely ridiculous. It is hilarious. Because the way that the musical is actually structured on stage, at least the version I saw, was all of the instruments were also on stage. Okay. And it was very minimal set wise. it was mostly just, it was very heavy on costumes, not on set. So all of the 6 girls did have like these very color-coded costumes, very out there costumes, and with House of Holbein it just got more extreme, and they dressed up the people playing the instruments as well, and it was very, very funny. So that I'll find the actual House of Holbein.
Listen, all I'm saying is, I think it was very predictable for that to be my favorite track, comparative to all of them.
You will have to put up with the fact that this is, you know, recorded. This is not the version I saw, but
Well, I doubt they would
think
have the
this is-
exact version you saw.
it's still probably a good thing. But so yeah, honestly, I do, Get Down is my favorite song.
It's not a bad
On-
song.
It's my favorite. Like it's the first song I was exposed to in 6, and
Hi,
what made
Mikey.
me go listen to the rest of the musical. Hi, Mikey. But then I ended up obviously fell in love with it. My least favorite song is definitely Heart of Stone, because I'm also
Yeah.
not a big ballad person.
I listened to it and it wasn't bad, and I think it conveyed. Oh, there was another song. Hold on. There was.
Lose Your Head or 6
No,
or
no. Lose Your. Here's the thing. I feel like I have heard Lose Your Head before. Like I've seen people talking about it or covering it or like doing a performance to it before.
yeah.
I don't remember from where, but I know that that was popular enough that I've seen it before. But
Yeah, I think that's probably the most popular song off of that entire
that was the other
album.
thing. I thought lyrically, All You Want to Do was like a really sad song.
Oh, it's a fucked up song.
But
That's the entire point.
but because I was noticing it when I was listening to it, I was like, you know, this is like really bad. Like in terms of
Yeah.
what it's talking
No,
about.
It's absolutely fucked. However, that I think is also my second favorite song on the entire album.
But yeah, so I would say in terms of musical accoutrement songs that I've heard before, it definitely did not. It was unexpected because obviously when it opened up with Ex-Wives, I was like, okay, where's this going? Because it had a very different genre structure, I would say, compared
Yeah,
to what you
that's-
typically hear.
That's why I specifically was like, I think if you were going to listen to a musical, this would be the musical you would listen to.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty good though. I'm
I did
surprised.
listen to the album you've recommended, and I am confused as to why you think it's me coded.
Which album?
the one with the clowns. I can't remember what.
Oh, the April Fool's one. All scary jokes.
Yeah,
Tell me why you're confused.
because I'm listening to it, and to be fair, I
I'm
don't.
listening to it. That's why I'm confused.
To be fair, I don't. Not okay. None of the songs really stuck out to me. First off,
Mhm.
all of them kind of passed on the boat. They all kind of sounded exactly the same.
Mhm.
And so I never really, I didn't, it was hard, and it was also just, it was that kind of music that is so much like background just fuzziness in it, where it's hard for me to totally understand what's being said as well.
Mhm.
And so it was a case of, I'm trying to listen to it, and I'm going in with an open mind, and I'm listening, I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I think, in my mind, at least when I initially, because one of the songs that I specifically heard, oh dear God, that I didn't necessarily think was something you would like, but it definitely reminded me of you, was Icicles. By the framing of, in my mind, I thought if you were to produce and make your own music, then it would sound similar to that.
To listen to it again to try and figure out what the heck you mean.
Because to me, at least, it sounds
Sounds very Undertale-ish.
it sounds clowncore to me, and that's your vibe.
Is
Yes, it is. Your vibe is like saying a really dark and true thing with a weird, silly undertone. That's how I feel. That's the main reason why I thought it was you coded. Not as in I thought you would like it, but as in I thought you would make it. And you know, that's okay. I would say a close second for my favorite song of the week was a song called Kill Your Competitor by, I guess, an artist called Flat Room with 2 exclamation points and a space between them, because it's really happy, and it's, well, the song itself isn't happy, but well, it's okay, it's like it's like lyrically not happy, but the song itself sounds happy, and that's what I like about it, because that's apparently my shtick. So but my actual weekly session is I've gotten back into The Sims recently.
I have seen that on Discord, yes.
And a couple of notes is that, first of all, I love a good occult sim. And I would say there are definitely some occults that are much more thought put into them than the others. But I always
played with
I
some
like
of the
playing
more
with
recent
spellcasters.
ones. Yeah, spellcasters are my favorite.
Because they're fun, but also I feel like it's cheating without cheating.
Yeah.
Because you can literally make one of the first couple of potions you can unlock that you can make as a spellcaster is the Plentiful Needs one, which you only need a single apple to make. And it refills all of your needs back to full. And you make them in batches, so you get multiple out of it. And I always thought that was really broken. And plus you get to teleport everywhere later on and literally bring yourself back to life. So, from death. And I just found that completely ridiculous. But
it felt a lot like, you never played The Sims 3, did you?
I played the Sims Pets one, which I think was based off of 3.
Well, in the Sims 3 Supernatural pack, that's where we got basically all of the occult sims in the Sims 3. There was a sim called Genie, and it was basically a normal sim, except it was basically with cheats on.
Well, there you go.
And I did not like playing with the Genie specifically because there was no progression. You just had everything at once. So, but that
could
to
you,
me,
like,
that's
summon money or something?
You could like, it was an entire thing of transmuting things. You could just clean things automatically. It felt a lot like how Spellcaster is in Sims 4.
It's true. They can't duplicate things.
Yeah.
Which I find hilarious. But
because if you just get something expensive and duplicate it, then free money.
That's the other thing. I found that not only Spellcaster is pretty broken, but specifically the scientist career, the one that you go to, is crazy stupid. Because I'm pretty sure it came out, I think that was part of the Get to Work stuff, and it came out obviously before the Spellcaster stuff, like Realm of Magic.
Yeah, it was the Get to Work was the first expansion pack.
But it came out, and basically it's one of the ones that you can go to. It's not just an automatic one, like if you wanted to. And you unlock like a bunch of different gadgets and stuff. Bye, Mikey. You unlock like a bunch of different gadgets, including a cloning machine, which lets you not only clone like items but Sims. And I always thought that was really weird. And then the place that you go to, the lot itself, has like so many rocks outside where you get so many different like crystals and metals that I always thought it was really broken. But it also works really well with the Crystal Creations thing that came out later. Because then you get all of that stuff and you can grow trees. And like all of the machines that you use like work up not only your gemology but your logic, and you end up gardening too there, and possibly doing rocket science. So you build like a lot of skills just by passively going to work, which I also thought was really broken in its own way. And you can make like a lot of money. But no, so I played recently, and I specifically I tried getting a bunch of CC to make a cool character, because I feel like once you get CC, it's hard to re-get CC that you already have unless you like make a note of what you want. Because otherwise,
that
there's
itself
so
is
many
a giant
things.
headache. Yeah.
Like the amount of Tumblr CC creators and Patreon CC creators is crazy. But I got a bunch of them. I made some characters that look pretty fine because I specifically wanted to make, in my mind, this was the idea I had was I wanted to make an e-boy character, but it turned into a sad, tired boy character because I opted instead of the blush to go with eye bags, and that changed the whole vibe of it. And then I made his boyfriend die from laughter because I wanted to see if I could do it. And then after, I had them have a kid, which I had to make him come back from the dead from, and they had a kid and he was ugly, so I changed him. And every time I have a kid, I wonder, why do I do it? Because there's so much work if you want them to have a good life.
Especially when
Just
they
like
added
real life.
infants. And,
There's
the
so
addition
much
of infants
work.
also makes it so much worse.
I can't play on long or normal lifespan. I have to play on short lifespan because I'm too impatient.
See, I don't like short lifespan because I like having time to do stuff with the other like life stages, but it makes the infant and toddler stage so insufferable.
But so quick though, because you could immediately like get them up within 2 days.
Well, yeah, no, I meant it's insufferable with like the normal or long lifespans.
But that's what I'm saying. For me, especially now because the whole life and death thing where your ghost can just be a sim essentially still, I feel like that takes more precedence in terms of if you have a short lifespan and like you have some characters that you originally made and then they had kids and all that stuff, then it makes it easier to still work on goals even if they're dead, because then you can be like, well, they have their own life and we can move away and all that stuff.
PD's talking about dead sims and everything like that.
Listen,
there was a time, this was a few years ago now, but I had made a sim and everything like that, and I had built them this little house. It wasn't a good house, but it worked. And so I had my sim, and then she had, I believe, just gotten a husband. I think they literally just got married, and she was pregnant. And it was gonna be a case of she was gonna like be the one who goes to work, and then he would be staying home and taking care of the house and everything. It would be a good house husband. And I think it was one of the times she was at work, I was puddling around with something else on the lot, I'm pretty sure. And then he's just suddenly there's a fire because he started trying to cook. So I was like, let's get your cooking skill up because you're gonna be doing a lot of cooking. And of course, the first fucking meal he makes, he dies in a fire.
well,
And I'm like, this was not how this was supposed to go.
Did he not extinguish himself?
I don't know. I kept trying to tell him to extinguish himself, but he still died. And so I'm like, okay, well. And so I added him back as a ghost, and so now there was a ghost house husband taking care of the baby.
Well, okay, this is first of all, I cannot build in The Sims to save anyone's life, let alone my own. Like, I've tried making good things within it, and they never look good. So I'm debating whether or not one day I need to make, like, a crash course and just be like, I'm gonna build a modern house, and it's not gonna look homey, it's gonna look lovely in its own way. But there's this one thing that I did in this save in particular, because right now, as of right now, there is my main couple, and then their kid, and then a servo, which is like the robot that I had my main dude build because I got his robot skill up, because I was like, if both of the parents are working, I want someone to take care of the child. Because I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I specifically made a robot to be a nanny. And what ended up happening was, in order to get this far, because technically speaking, I have one of them is an athlete and one of them is in the scientist career, and the scientist career is all the way up because that was the one I started with, but then the athlete career is like almost to the top, but they've been making bank for a decent amount of time. And the only reason I was like even ready for a kid was because I was like, we need a bigger house. Me talking to the couple that I've created, we need a bigger house for this.
God comes out of the sky and is just like, okay, listen.
And so
Powwow time.
initially, like, we had made decent enough bank that we had moved. I say we as if I'm also part of this like throuple, I guess. We moved to a bigger place, but that place I was like, this can't support a child because I have so many things that I want my other Sims to do. And so because the main sim that I had as a scientist already had like a max gemology thing just from being a scientist, I got a gemology table and I gathered some crystals from the scientist career and to see like what's the rarest one I could find. And I cut a gnome because that's the most expensive one you can make out of like this really expensive gem. I don't even remember what it was, but it's something enough where it in and of itself cost 600, but selling it sold for like 2,000. And what I did was I took that gnome outside and I was repeatedly copying it with the spellcaster spell, and so the entire lawn was filled with gemstone gnomes. And I went into build mode and just started deleting all of them and getting the money. And so now that sits on the fireplace in my mansion as our true claim to wealth. It represents everything that you can be, you will be, if you try hard enough and cheat well enough. Because technically speaking, I didn't use actual cheats to give myself money. I just happened to copy a gemstone gnome. And it all worked out, you know? We have a bigger house and there's a kid. And eventually we're going to die, but I think that's okay. But yeah, that's been my weekly obsession.
Well, now we're almost an hour into this podcast.
Now that we're almost an hour into this podcast, you're not going to like this topic because you don't have that much to talk about.
What's the topic?
What do you think it is based off of the title?
Genuinely, no idea.
You don't even have a guess?
No, I don't. Because I don't know what this is about.
Okay, the only reason I was going to bring this up is because I had been talking about it recently, not only to myself, but also to other people. About love life stuff.
Love life stuff? I thought we were saving that for a guest.
I would, but at the same time, I know that all of our guests that I would have saved it for are horribly inadequate when it comes to a love life. So...
Am I also one of those people too?
Yes, but you can still talk about fun times. Because at the end of the day, even though Hide's had
we
we
ended last week's podcast with me realizing maybe someone was asking me on a date. So
yeah, I feel like that can't have been the only time that that's happened in your life, though.
I don't remember any other time, man.
Anybody in chat, call in now if you've had a bad dating experience or bad love life experience. I've had a few that I could recount in horrid detail. So let's start. First of all, see, look, Hide has had people. Let's start in elementary school, shall we?
God.
See, this is when you get to the fun stuff. I was apparently, I say apparently, I was there, but it's like I didn't realize it at the time. I was a very popular child, and I don't understand why, because I don't think I looked that attractive when I was younger, even for young child brains. Because I had like a bowl cut and like really dark glasses, so I looked like a mushroom that was dumb yet smart, but also still dumb. Yeah. But apparently, either it was my personality, which that would be hilarious if that's what ended up winning them over, or it was my early onset homosexuality was coming into play, and that's why all the girls liked me, but they didn't realize that that love that they felt for me wasn't romantic, but was in fact, I feel safe around you comparative to the other boys in class.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is probably what it stems from, but I'd like to think that I had something going on, even though I don't know what I had going on. But at elementary school, because I went to public elementary school 3rd grade through 5th grade, which was a varied amount of children, but you know how public school is anyways, like you see the same children even if you're in the different classes. And I think technically, I wouldn't say in third grade it started, but in fourth grade, I had a lot of friends that were girls, but I don't know if I would say they were girlfriends. Well, that's not true. Okay, so I had this one classmate. I'll say her real name, but I won't say her last name because she would never find this, and also we don't talk to each other. But her name was Monica, and she was in my third grade class. And then eventually she was also in my fourth grade class. And the fourth grade class that I had was horrible because it was like this teacher for problem children, but she was also like a problem teacher in and of itself.
Well,
which is probably why they stuck them with her, because they're like, we don't like you. But regardless, I shared this girl from third going into fourth grade, and in fourth grade is when she like apparently really liked me, which I did not know at the time, because I think in my little brain, whenever someone would do something nice to me, I would be like, oh, that's so sweet, I'm so happy to have them as a friend. Instead of, oh, they might like you, because I wasn't even thinking of that. Because this girl, I think for one of my birthdays specifically, she got me stuff for my birthday. No other kid did that. She got me like a watch, not a designer watch, but a watch and a DS game. And then her mom,
God damn.
And then her mom apparently told my mom and was like, yeah, she handpicked those things out just to make sure there was something that he might like. And meanwhile, I was like, I have such a good friend. Like, because I was not thinking about it at all. And yeah, she got me a Rolex, George. She very bougie elementary school. Very bougie public elementary school.
Imagine that on your tiny little, because you have very thin wrists now. Imagine back then, you still probably had tiny ass wrists, and Rolex could only go so small.
I don't know. I was a pretty large child, okay? I had my own fun time. I was large in the head. I was large in the body.
That hasn't changed.
Both size and haircut wise. It just, nothing was helping me in that stage of my life. But that wasn't the only person, because I also had, because the two friends that I had at the time, which granted, I'm assuming they thought of me as friends. I don't remember. Like, I don't think there was ever any issue with it, but specifically, I had these two friends, Amber and Lauren, that I made in that fourth grade class. Because something that was weird, that I thought was really weird about the fourth grade class, is that there was problem children in there, and then there was like women in STEM. Like, there was a very drastic difference. And Lauren was one of these girls who was like in the STEM program, and I made friends with her, and then I made friends with this other girl named Amber, and we would hang out together like at lunch, and we'd like do kickball and all that stuff. And I remember thinking that I was pretty close friends with them because we would hang out like all the time. And in my mind, even to this day, I don't think there was ever anything like they liked me, but I remember my mother saying things about it and me being like, they're just my friends. So I have no clue. I feel like my entire reality of what was happening in elementary school is skewed, because I wasn't even thinking about that. Because I think what ended up happening was that in third grade specifically, when I had the entire crazy experience with the crazy Kaylee girl who I met over at Cub Scouts camping trip, and then after that,
like, shoved you in a closet and tried to kiss you.
Yes, that was her birthday party. We became close. We weren't in the same class. We became close. Then suddenly we were boyfriend and girlfriend. I was invited to her birthday party. She pulled me into her closet because she couldn't close the door of her room. She wasn't allowed to. And then she kissed me. And then we came out of the closet. And then after that, I think she broke up with me the next day. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. And then she started prank calling us. She started prank calling her number saying we won a cruise to anywhere, and my parents had to call her house, talk to her mother, and say, wrangle your child, because she won't stop calling our number. So yeah, I think after that I was done. So I wasn't thinking about getting in a relationship with anyone else, you know, an elementary school relationship, because I was like, that's enough for me, honestly. But apparently, okay. I even had like girls that had liked me, because there's just one or two girls that supposedly liked me when I was like in preschool that I was apparently very unaware of, because one of them I swear is a lesbian now. She has to have been. But yeah, I don't
See,
know.
the only thing I can think of in a similar vein to like that is that they when my dad lived at his apartment complex when I was younger.
Is this when you dated a mafia boss?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um
It was like 8, by the way.
yeah, no, he was not an actual mafia boss. It just that was kind of the joke. There was the only other girls in that little area because the way that this apartment complex was set up, it was like a circle of the apartment buildings, and then in the middle um there was a playground and a pool. And so this was before I got into like video games and stuff and didn't want to go outside anymore, where I
No, how
would
times have changed.
that literally was kind of it. It was I played outside every weekend that I could, until I got into VFK, and I stayed inside all the time. But it was always this case of I was the only girl there. The only other girls were older and they did not like me. They actually ended up showing me.
Porn.
No, they showed me The Grudge.
Well,
They convinced me to watch The Grudge because I wanted this little blue plastic frog, and I got in trouble for it too because I wasn't I wasn't responding to like my little rudimentary phone that I had to keep in touch with like my dad and everything, and they were like, where the hell are you? You were meant to be home like an hour ago, and so I got in trouble for that. And I was also, scarred because I just watched a horror movie.
and you're like, but I wanted the frog.
I got the frog though.
Well,
Don't know where it is. Probably got thrown away at some point.
well,
Anyways,
the thought that counts.
so there was a bunch of boys basically. There was specifically 3 boys. I only remember 2 of their names because the third one was I think a little bit younger than me and he was kind of a little shit. But he, as far as I know, he still had a crush on me. They all had a crush on me as far as I know.
You had your own little harem.
Yeah, I
reverse
did.
harem.
So it was a case of there was a little guy.
Oh, look at shit. A little guy.
I don't know what his name was.
Hi, Shitty. Welcome.
There was a little shit guy.
I love that name for him.
There was Dominic, who was honestly the best option out of all of them. And then there was Kenneth.
Hate
Kenneth
that name.
is the one. Kenneth is the one I had a crush on and I liked and was technically in a quote unquote relationship with. Keep in mind, pretty sure he was either in like 6th or 7th grade when I was in 3rd.
Well,
So
love knows no age.
it was awful, and then there was frequent times where he wasn't allowed to come out of the house because he had been caught stealing his dad's cigarettes
That's
and
nice.
stuff like that, or stealing his dad's knife or something like that. It
You're
was just
kind
an
of
entire,
man.
and there was an entire thing of one of the times he ended up throwing a glass bottle and breaking it in front of the door to my dad's apartment, and in a way to try and scare me for some reason. It was very weird. It did not make sense.
Love also doesn't have an explanation.
But I remember specifically, I don't know, God, I was trying to get him to do something for me, and I don't remember what it was now, but I remember I was like, it was an entire thing where I said I would kiss him if he did it. And so I remember, like, underneath the stairwell of one of the apartment buildings, like, very briefly kissing him.
I'm sorry, but just imagining a 6th grader following the whims of a 3rd grader is so beyond me. Because how would any 6th grader do that? Like, all the 6th graders I knew were like little shits in their own right.
I mean, he was a little shit, to be fair.
Yeah, but still, that's so weird.
I don't know. I do not know, man. But he was also doing awful in school because that was also part of the reason why he got grounded all the time.
You're like a dumb and stupid bad boy.
And then I remember Dominic who I think was closer to my age. I think still older, but he was closer to my age. And I remember I would hang out in his apartment, and we would just hang out. And the thing is, I think I only tried to hang out with him because he had a Wii.
Is that why you thought he was the best option?
No, he was the best option because he was actually genuinely nice, and he was
Well,
actually really sweet.
there was this one kid that we ended up when we were renting a house. I don't remember where it was. I just remember one of the streets was Wildflower Ridge. But back when we were renting a house specifically, at least I want to say it had to have been the house before this one, so like years ago. There's technically three kids in the neighborhood that we specifically hung out with. Well, not three kids, three households with kids in them that we hung out with. And one of them was the next door neighbors. And the next door neighbor specifically, she had, I want to say 2 kids. It might have just been the one, but I swear it was 2. And one of them was older, but because we were younger, we hung out with the younger one, or at least I did. And his name was Caleb. But the thing is, Caleb was a child. Horrible. That he was the kind of child who like plays Halo and like has those, you know, those fake guns that have those pop things in them that make it sound like a real gun.
Yeah.
That's also something he had. He was that kind of kid who also turns out had anger issues.
Yeah.
And he kind of frightened me a little bit because every once in a while, I think he was around my age, if not like maybe a little bit younger than me, but every once in a while he would like get this look in his eye, like kind of like when a monkey wants a banana. And it was because then he would like start having a tantrum and like banging on the ground and like foaming at the mouth. I kid you not, like the spit was frothing and it was crazy. And then compare that to like one of my sister's friends who she had with one of the other neighbors, but not next door. And she had a little brother who was like the nicest little innocent boy compared to that. And I don't know, there's just a lot of weird things that happen. But after elementary school / when you were a child, were there any moments you can think of that you might have missed?
Of people liking me?
Yeah. Because I have a very embarrassing story too for high school specifically, middle school into high school.
The only... See, I don't even know.
See, exactly.
I genuinely, I want to say no, because I genuinely don't think I did. I had crushes, but as far as I know, the 2 main crushes I had were reciprocated. So that was kind of it. But
Wow, what's it like to have love that actually worked out?
It didn't, though.
Well,
it didn't at the end.
Well, I know how at least one
of them ended, yeah. The other one, he was confused because he didn't know if he actually liked me or not.
Yeah.
So, and the only thing I can think of is maybe this one guy in band, who was the trumpet section leader. He was like a year older than me, and he was a trumpet section leader, and he did not know how to run the section, and so he had to constantly look to me for help on figuring out how to run the section.
Maybe he finds authority figures hot.
He's the one I told you about after the pod last week.
Which one?
The one where he showed up on that app.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I don't know if he's trans now or not. I have no idea. So that's the only thing. But yeah. I found him very annoying. I did not like him. We got into constant arguments, and he seemed to like, it seemed like he kind of just liked to mess with me more than anything. But it was also a case of he didn't know what he was doing, and so he looked to me for guidance, but then also clearly did not think that I was good enough to be able to play certain parts. So
I feel like that's all boys.
Well,
I feel okay. No, seriously, especially in like school, because you're forced to deal with them.
it's true.
Because a lot of the time, like, okay, for instance, I imagine in public school you deal with a lot of guys that specifically are just assholes because that's just who they are. Like, it could be a mixture of like that's how they were raised, other extenuating circumstances, but that's just how they end up becoming, and that's how they act in high school. Because I feel like you see that a lot, especially if like dude bro culture, all that stuff. Like in my high school, we had dude bro stuff. However, instead of being mean in that regard, the guys that I were the guys that I were having, the guys that I had in my experience were like rude and mean in a pompous sort of way, in a puss sort of way. Where like they would try and come up with like arguments or something, or like they would, I swear this is something that happened, and this is why I fucking hated this school, because we would have like speech and debate stuff, which I hated because I didn't like fighting with people even in a debate setting, because when it comes down to it, it's like they would have their point and I'd be like, sure, I don't care, you can think that. And what ended up happening was all of these guys, they would love to like trying to get in debates with people, and they would even do it with like the teachers, like just to, because they liked the debate or something, and the thrill, the rush of fighting with someone like that. And it would always like, they would always try and start topics with people, like just in general. And because of how the school system worked, I basically, even if I didn't like directly know all of the people that I went to school with, I at least knew of them. And so they could still and had the opportunity to talk to me at any given point in time during the day, because when we would get let out of our classes, we would all like be in the general area, like the vicinity. And I remember multiple times that it happened where these people from like upper class, when I was like younger, would try and start conversations with me where I could very clearly tell that they were wanting to get a specific response so that they could try and like rebuttal it. And I would literally say, I don't care to them, and I would walk away, because then they would just move on to someone else and try and do the exact same thing. And I don't know, like I feel like I ran into so many pompous people, like specifically guys.
Those are the guys that like now on social media have the microphone and go up to random people on the street and be like, what are your thoughts on this?
I feel like they would have done it then. They just couldn't afford the microphone. And it's just so, it was awful. And that's the thing, especially because of my whole situation of like, first of all, one, I doubt any of them were of the homosexual nature openly or even thought about it. Because even if it was a thought in their mind, they probably repressed it.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I could be like, been there, girl, done that. But at the same time, it's like I could never think of any of them as romantic interest. I could never have a crush on any of them for multiple reasons. One, because they are horrible. Two, because like
They're horrible.
even if I did like them, I would always tell myself there's no point in getting a crush on these people, because they're not only dickheads, but also even if you did, it would never go anywhere, like ever. It's not even a possibility. So don't waste your time. I would like have this talk with myself, and you know what, that prevented me from ever looking at them in a romantic light, that's for sure. But I still, in middle school, because this was back before I even like had any sort of figuring out of like, you're a faggot. I had this thing with one of my friends at the time, who again was a girl, and I feel like this is something that happened a lot, where it would be girls that would feel safe around me because I was not like other guys, but in a vague enough way where no one would call it out, especially because the implications of calling someone gay in a religious context can be very serious. And so I feel like that made kids less inclined to do it in a public setting. So the fun part that happened was I had this friendship with this girl, and initially I also was like, oh, maybe I do like her because we're like friends. And I hadn't even thought about my sexuality at that point. And I remember, this was so bad. This girl, the way that we would communicate, because I didn't have a cell phone at the time, and to be fair, I don't think she did either, because her parents were also like really strict. So we would communicate through Facebook Messenger. But the thing is, she didn't have a Facebook account because her parents were really strict. So I would I would be messaging her mom's account. She would message me through her mom's account.
Oh, that's awful.
It is. It's even worse because I'm pretty sure there's screenshots of this conversation somewhere. I've deleted it at this point, but at one point I straight up like confessed to her. I was like, I think I like you, as like a little seventh grader probably at this point, seventh going into eighth grade self. And it was so embarrassing because she also said she thinks she likes me too, but obviously nothing happened with it. And then literally the next year I was like, well, I like sucking dick and cock, so like there's nothing you can really do about that. And it was such a whiplash. And I think what was even more confusing, which was awful, because I was so embarrassed at this point, because I then had to basically come out to her as well and be like, yeah, I don't think I like you that way, and I'm really sorry because I don't think you deserve to have that happen to you either, but if I don't tell you, it's worse. So I had to have this entire situation where I basically had to come out to her after already confessing that I liked her. And I felt horrible because it's like, that's like when you try, like, if you get someone's hopes up and then you're like, psych, just kidding. Like if a guy were to say, oh yeah, I like you, and then after the fact he'd be like, it was just a prank, bro. Which luckily I wasn't trying to do, but I didn't want it to it seemed like that. Because I didn't want it to seem like that. Which, you know, luckily, still, the gayness has still not washed off. So I can say it officially was not a prank, much to my detriment at some points in my life. But I still felt awful at the time. And I remember that mixed with the circumstances of like, none of the guys around me were, one, good looking, two, good looking personality wise, and three, were all heavily religious. So there was no potential of any kind of prospect in that regard during high school. And I don't know, like the entirety of that was just awful. I feel like all of my stories that came from any kind of dating or stuff was definitely college and beyond. That's the only time that you can actually, I feel like, actually try and explore having a relationship with someone legitimately. Comparative to like, even in high school, I know some people were like high school sweethearts, but to me, I feel like those are exceptions and not rules of sorts. Because technically speaking, there's a couple that I went to high school with that eventually like graduated out after I had gotten to that level and everything, and they went on to marry each other. And I'm pretty sure they're still married to this day. But at the same time, I also know that is a lovely little Christian couple. That was their goal all along, to find each other and then be like, we were high school sweethearts. And you know what? I'm happy for them. She was a very nice person, didn't really care about the dude, but that would never be a possibility for me. And even for the people that it did happen to, I was surprised that it happened, or that people were in relationships in high school and that they somehow worked out for longer than maybe a month or two. Because when I was in high school, I was not ready to date anyone. Even if I wanted to, I was not ready to. Because you have a completely different mind when you're in high school.
It's true.
Because it's just so weird. Because even in college, like obviously you're still figuring yourself out because it's early days of that. But even then, you still have a better grasp of being able to explore your individuality. And I think that's what makes it more likely for that stuff to happen and or possibly work out. It didn't in my case, but I have stories.
Even like thinking back and like trying to think if I missed any signs of anyone ever having like a crush on me or anything like that. And all I can think of is, I think my first 2 years of high school, I think I was just annoying. And then my last 2 years of high school, for the times that I actually was in school, because that was, COVID, I'm pretty sure I was just so depressed that I kind of just seemed like an asshole.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I was like, half the time you probably wouldn't want to be your friend, and the other half the time you would be like, you need therapy, girl. But you know,
The only thing that I can think of that really sticks out to me in regards to all that is there is this one girl who I like quote unquote said was my wife. Like that,
Rose?
you know, kind of, yeah, similar to how I call Rose my wife.
Mhm.
Because of something that happened when we were playing Uno, where I said, show me your hand, and she held out her actual hand to me, and I'm like, not what I asked for.
And then suddenly the courtship began.
Yeah, and suddenly we were married. And
You know,
so,
that's kind of how it works in Christian school,
well,
but it's literal.
but there was a time where I think it was freshman year, it may have been sophomore year, I can't remember. But I remember saying something along the lines of, I don't think XYZ likes me. And she had said, like, how can anyone not like you? You're so kind and sweet. And that stuck with me.
It's
So
true. Especially when you're younger. If you ever get compliments that sound genuine, I feel like you tend to remember them more.
But apparently she was also kind of an asshole later on, so.
Well, that also happens. That happens a lot. That's one of the reasons why, well, I say one of, there's multiple reasons, but one of the main ones that I'm not friends with anyone that I went to high school with.
Friend with some of the people that I went to high school with, but we don't like talk that often.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm friends with people I was friends with in high school, but I didn't go to high school with them.
That's the thing. I feel like I was never an insider kind of person where like I would be friends with a decent amount of people, but I wasn't like close friends with a decent amount of people versus I was friends with those kinds of people. So like I would have people that I would be relatively close with, but it would only be like those select few versus them they would be close with a bunch of different people. And so I thought to myself, if I leave this place, I'm gonna end up like not being able to stay in contact with most of them because I don't know them that well, or I'm not that close to them. Because at the same time, they all had varying different interests, and I'm sure there are some people that they would probably have interests that I would be surprised about, but we'd never talk. And so it's not even like I could really gauge that. And I was more open in high school versus middle school, but even then back in high school, I was way more closed off. And so I would not talk to people as often. I would only talk to the people that I knew, and then I would get to know other people because of the people that I already knew. But yeah, it was weird. I mean, I can tell. Okay, here. Do you want a bad story or do you want a spicy story?
Oh God, I don't know, man.
I have a couple of options. You want me to? Here, I can give you dating advice.
I don't know if I want your dating advice.
Hey, this is actually very useful. I think you should take it.
Okay.
Okay, so there's this one guy that I dated. I don't remember when. It happened after the first main guy that I dated. And dating this guy was like the equivalent of dating a wet paper towel. Because he was kind of just there and like he didn't really bring much to the table. I remember one of the main reasons I ended up going out with him was because we both played a couple of games like similarly, and one of the games that we played was League, funnily enough, and this was, you know, back when I still didn't have anyone to play with, and I still don't. But something that really weirded me out, because he had said that his job essentially was kind of like nannying in a way, which like that's not the issue. It was the fact that he was constantly supposed to be watching kids, and yet he had time to do stuff like play games with me, which I always found a bit odd. And for the fact that when I did play games with him, he owned like every single skin of every single champion, and that's a lot of money. That's like a lot of money. And so that also was like ringing alarm bells of like, you spend curiously. But no, the bad part about it was the first date we went on, it was actually over in this area. We went to the movie theater And then after the movie theater, we went to what used to be, I don't know if it still is, but the pizza place that was next to it. And I'm telling you this right now as future advice that I'm hoping you already know, but I'm telling you it to reassure you. Never go on just a movie date for your first date with anyone ever. Because you don't get to talk during the movie, and unless you're going somewhere afterwards, you don't really get to talk at all, even about the movie. And the movie that we went to see, I'm pretty sure was one of the Annabelle movies, so that was also not a great choice either. But that was what was out at the time. I was like, sure, I'll see it. I got jump scared at least 3 times in that movie. But when we went to eat, we would talk a bit, and we talked a bit about like interests and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, blah blah blah, because I was like asking about like anything that he wanted to do like in his future, or like what he was interested in at the moment. And after, when he was gonna go, he got in his car and he left, but before, we did like this really awkward hug. He was not a very, he was like the equivalent of like what I was, which was a very awkward person that didn't know how to touch people. But the only issue was this was technically my second time being with a dude, and at that point I'd already had an experience where like the other dude was like very touchy-feely, and so I was just like not knowing what was overstepping boundaries and stuff. But he was also of the same mind, so we were basically just 2 awkward people that didn't know how to touch each other in any way capacity. And so the hug was really awkward. And then after that, the second date, God, this was the worst date ever. I'm not saying something. Actually, well, this was the worst date ever, and then I have a very close second one that came from a later dude later on. But the second date was, we went to Disney. Which okay. I feel like this is my other advice for you, even though I know this is never gonna come up because it's not like you own passes or anything. Never go to a theme park with someone that you have not at least gotten to know a decent chunk. Because let me tell you, the amount of awkward silence while waiting in line for rides is immeasurable. Because you don't know what to talk about, and you're surrounded by strangers and or couples that are very clearly like already boyfriend and girlfriend and basically fucking in line, and you basically are just standing there really awkwardly. Okay, for context, the only reason that we went to Disney is because he was already an annual pass holder, which again, part of the whole thing where I was like, wow, you sure do spend a lot of money. Because I was very much wondering, like, how much are these people paying you to like watch their kids? But on the flip side, he was an annual pass holder. I get into Disney for free because my dad works for Disney, and so I was like, sure, I'll go to Disney with you. One of the worst mistakes of my life. And it was a long date. We spent a good couple of hours there. It was to like one of, in my opinion, the worst parks to go to for like that kind of stuff, which was Hollywood Studios, because there's not that much to do there in terms of like entertainment, especially with someone that you don't know that well. And it was just so bad. And I remember walking away from that date and getting picked up and thinking, I hated everything about that. But it gets worse. Because what happened was literally that night, at that point I had been like, okay, because he had not made any moves, I had not made any moves in terms of like, let's hold hands, let's maybe like kiss or something, let's talk about anything. Nothing had happened. And that on top of the fact that it felt like he wasn't really engaging when I was really trying to engage and be like, well, tell me about stuff going on. But you can only ask that so many times before you're getting the same answers and nothing's going anywhere. And so I texted him that night because I wanted to be open, I wanted to be honest. At this point, I had already had a dating experience under my belt. I was like, I'm not gonna have this situation happen again. And I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm not really feeling it with you. I didn't put it that way, but I put it kind of similar to like, this has been like 2 dates now and I'm not really getting a spark from you in terms of like, I'm not sure I sense much of a mutual interest sort of thing. especially from my end, because I didn't want to do something along the lines of keeping someone like on a hook or something, especially if I wasn't fully in it. And at that point, I was not in it at all. And so
my toes weren't even in the water.
I wanted to be like open and honest, and so I said that. And I was like, but if you still, I did the horrible mistake, being like, if you still want to be friends or something, that's cool too. And he was like, oh, that's cool, that's fine, sorry. Which, like, how do you respond to that? And then after that, we didn't talk for like a week, which, you know, I expected. I was like, sure, that's fine, it is what it is. But after that week period, and I know it was a week period because I mentioned it in the text that I ended up sending him after, he sends me a text a week later in the middle of the night, like 2 a.m. I kid you not.
Just a dick pic?
No, that came before.
Oh.
He texts me and he asks me if I would be willing to share nudes with him. A week later, after me telling him I'm not interested in him. And at first I was like, I don't even know how to respond to this. And then I think I said something along the lines of, that's interesting, considering everything that I've told you previously thus far. How about you go look it up on your own, because I'm sure you could find pictures of naked boys by yourself. And then I blocked him, and I was like, I don't want to talk to him anymore. So yeah, that was a horrible dating experience. And I still remember his name and his last name. And I'm not gonna dox him, but I just wanted you to know that you will always remember people that are awful. So yeah, that was a really, really bad one. So if you can get anything from that, it's if you have a movie, don't see a horror movie, and at least have a meal before or after the movie. I would say after, because then you can talk about the movie too.
And then also if something goes wrong, then it's not like awkward where you're like you've already paid for the movie and everything, and then you have to still go in because you don't want to waste the money.
But then also, never go to Disney for a date unless you are like at least 5 dates in with this person.
I mean, so when I went to Candlelight, when
you actually went on 5 dates there.
No. When you go to Candlelight, they give you 2 free tickets to Epcot. And so I was like, I am going to offer to take the person who I had a crush on.
Bold move.
To Epcot. Now there's a few issues with this. The first one being that he is not someone who is very into being in public and like doing stuff like that.
Just so being in public in general?
Yeah, yeah, just in general. He's not someone who likes to do that kind of things. He still agreed to come with me.
Probably but we did offered him a free Disney ticket.
Yeah, and also I think we were like I think we would consider each other best friends at the time.
That's strange.
And I don't know if this was, I can't remember if this was before or after I had asked him to homecoming. And so like before or after he knew if I had feelings for him.
Mm-hmm.
So there was kind of like a little bit of awkwardness where we didn't know what to do and everything like that. And then also, if you know me in theme parks, it's just
just the walking for you.
Just the fucking walking was awful. But it wasn't that bad. I honestly, to be fair, I can't remember a lot of it.
Well, so, that's what happens when your mind blacks things out.
You want to know
something
real fucking cringy I did with this same guy?
Oh boy.
So this guy is trans, and so he came out to me as trans, I think freshman year, and I think it was either sophomore or junior year, where I had already confessed him and said like, hey, I like you. Where can we go with this, if anywhere? And one of the things that happened was our school, I don't remember why, but the school held this little conference for specifically the boys.
Okay.
Where they like taught the boys how to like tie a tie and everything like that. I think there may have been something for the girls. I can't remember. I don't think I went to it.
What even would the
But
equivalent be?
I don't know. But it was weird, and he did not get to go to it, and he was kind of sad because they didn't give him, because one of the things that they did was they gave everyone a tie,
Mhm.
and he was upset about this, and so I was like, I know what I'll do, because I think if Valentine's Day was coming up too.
Did you give him a tie?
I looked for the same tie that they found,
The
but the thing
same
is,
one?
or at least the same kind of pattern.
And you stole one
But-
from another guy. You're like, give me your tie, sir.
The stupid thing is, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I remember he said, well, someone gave me a tie.
Mhm.
And my stupid ass said, don't take it. Like, don't take it. I'd already fucking ordered it.
You just said, don't do it.
I didn't explain anything because I wanted it to be at this price. But I think what I ended up doing was I ended up changing the order, and I changed it to be, instead of, because our school colors were like this blue, this a pale blue. So the tie I tried to get was this pale blue with black stripes and everything like that. So what I did was I changed it, and I changed it to be a yellow tie with black stripes. Because to me, his color was yellow. And then my fucking goofy ass.
Damn.
I gave it to him in like this envelope.
Interesting.
Cause I didn't have a gift bag or anything, so I gave it to him in an envelope, and I wrote him like this letter. And on the back of the fucking letter, I wrote out the entire lyrics to "Smitten" by Dodie.
Wow.
Uh,
Was there motivation for that, or?
Cause I really fucking liked him. This
Mhm.
was the same guy that I had a dream about. And I told him about this dream, this specific dream that I had a dream about, where he was getting married. I don't know if he was actually getting married to me in the dream or if he was getting married in general, but I just remember him looking super duper happy, like genuinely really, really happy.
Oh, no.
And I remember I texted him
I don't like
this,
where this is going.
I texted him the next morning and I said, hey, you were in my dream last night. You were just, I didn't specify if, this was before I'm pretty sure I had confessed to him.
Mhm.
Where I just said, hey, you were in my dream last night, you were getting married, and you just look really, really happy, and it was a really, really good look on you.
That's weird. Maybe it's just the wording.
Sweet. I think I'm giving like a very brief synopsis of what I said because I can't remember exactly what I said. But he, as far as I can tell, he thought it was really sweet.
I think it's just the wording of "you looked really happy, that looks good on you" implies that they look miserable the rest of the time. And in my mind, that's why I'm like, ooh, weird choice of words there. But you know, it was your love story that ultimately totally worked out, right?
Here, I can read you the exact text.
Oh God, you still have it?
It's on Instagram. I just searched it up.
That's worse.
I had a dream last night where you were the main focus. It was your birthday, your wedding day, and the day you were starting tea all at once. And there were tons of... So-
That's
so it
a
was all-
lot to happen on a single day.
I know. And there were tons of others around you also transitioning, and one of them later on was playing "Take Me On" a really complicated Guitar Hero, and everyone was happy and stuff. And then I woke up and really felt the need to tell you, probably a really fucking cheesy thing. So just bear with me. No matter what happens, I really care about you. You're one of my closest friends, and I'm really excited for what the future holds for both of us individually and together. I want you to know that I'm always here for you, and if I ever say something mean that ever makes you upset, please tell me. The last thing I would ever want to do is hurt you or anyone else, but my words slip out without me wanting to sometimes. But I love you and care about you and never want to lose you as a friend or otherwise, and I'm here for you 100%. And
What
that was a
happened-
giant snap train, I know, but I felt the need to say it.
What happened before that made you say if I ever say anything?
No, I don't know. I can't.
Because that makes it seem like you did say something that might have been bad.
I don't remember.
If I've learned anything, and if any of you should learn anything about Sarah, it's that she has a very complicated high school. He was a very interesting child. And like I'm interesting in my own ways, but I feel like Sarah has layers of cringe. And that's okay.
I say I've gotten less cringe as time has gone on. I maybe cringe in a different way now. I think I'm at least a little bit more socially adept.
I think you kind of like a cheese. Like sometimes you just need it to get older, but it still tastes like cheese. That's what you sound like. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure most of the time, whenever I think about high school, I just think about drama. So, at least you have some good memories.
I have plenty of drama.
Well, yeah.
I know some. One girl.
I know some of it. And mine's typically within the same parameters. It's relating to like very specific people. I feel like that's what always ends up happening. There's always like one or two people that have become your problem in high school. Yeah. I mean, okay. I will leave with a spicy story.
Oh god.
It's not that spicy. It's spicy in the sense of it was crazy when it happened. Looking back on it, it was crazy in a different way, but it was just funny, kind of. So rewind to before I dated the horrible nude guy, which, by the way, I have something to tell you about him off pod.
Okay.
The first guy that I dated when I was in college he was this guy that I specifically, I think, had met on Tinder, and I thought he looked cute. He apparently thought I looked cute, and at that time I was flabbergasted that anyone could think I looked cute. Because I remember even asking him specifically, why do you like the way I look? And he was like, I don't know, it's just your face. So our first date, essentially, which foreshadowing probably with how it happened, we went to a Starbucks to meet, just to like kind of meet and talk. And I showed up the time that we had said. In fact, I showed up a little early because, you know, I was like, I want to be punctual. And this was also before I could drive, so I had to be driven there and dropped off there. But I was stranded at this Starbucks that was not close to where I live, by the way. It was closer to Orlando.
Boy.
So I'm stranded at this Starbucks now. I say stranded. If I called, someone would have come to pick me up. But I was stranded in the sense of, if I wanted to immediately, I could not leave. And George, this was before. Stop. This was before. And what ended up happening was this dude, he showed up because I remember I had texted him. This was probably, I had initially waited like 20 minutes and then I waited 30 minutes. And at the 30-minute mark, I texted him and I was like, is this the right time and is this the right place? To which I got a text, I want to say like 5 minutes later, that said, oh shit, my alarm didn't go off. Very U-coded.
Shut up.
And he said, I think he said something along the lines of, I mean, he apologized obviously, but he said something along the lines of, we didn't have to do it if I didn't want to anymore. And I was like, I'm already here. Why the hell not? Just come on. And he was like, it's gonna take like at least 15 minutes to get there. And I was like, sure, I've already been waiting half an hour. This was the foreshadowing that I feel like should have marked how this relationship ended up ending. But this isn't the spicy part. The fun part that happened was essentially once he did get there, because initially I would say I was nervous for this date because it's a first date. You don't necessarily know the person, you're just getting to know them. But see, the minute you have shit on someone, the nerves go away.
Oh yeah.
Because now you have something over them that you can hold over them. So I will say, at least for that aspect, I was no longer nervous after waiting at least 10 minutes. Because if anything, I was just annoyed. And I made that very clear to him when he did show up. But the thing is, we ended up talking for at least like an hour and a half afterwards. Like at the coffee shop, just by itself. So in my mind at the time, I was like, this was worth it because I feel like we're actually like talking. And it actually felt like a conversation, which I feel like, for me at least, finding that is very rare in a guy, let alone a gay guy. So I was excited about that part. So skip forward to, I want to say, this had to have been our third date. Yes, third date. And because the second date was a horrible thing that he was also late to, but I'm not going to get into it. Third date, we went to this place closer by to me, but still kind of halfway in between. I went, actually, you know what, George? It was the place that we went that one time. We went there. And what ended up happening was I was dropped off ahead of time because I knew the area. I'd been there multiple times before, and it wasn't that big of an area. It just had a bunch of like shops around and everything. But that's the thing, I've had multiple dates there, George. I don't know which date I told you about. And what ended up happening was, I remember he showed up, I think on time that time. Don't know for sure. Wouldn't surprise me if he was late. And I ended up, we met at a cafe again, but then he was like, let's go out this way. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Because I didn't know, I don't think he had ever been there before. So I was like, I don't know where you're going, dude. And he led me over to his car, which I already thought was a bit like, huh, okay, weird. And I was like, where are we going? And he was like, we're not going anywhere. Which already was, I was like confused. Because this was technically like my first dude that I went on like date with. And I promise it's not as bad as you think, although I wouldn't have done the same thing now if I was in my shoes back then. And I got in the car with him, and we didn't go anywhere. He was true to his word that we weren't going anywhere. We were just sitting in the car and we were talking. But then what happened? This was so awkward. So at this point, I had never kissed a dude before. I'd only ever kissed a girl. And so obviously in a similar way, it's like the same thing, just a different person. But comparative feeling wise, in terms of like, you know, being into someone versus not being into someone, very different. And I remember he made a move on me, and he like leaned over because there was like a little center console thing and started kissing me. And I remember like curling up like a crap. It was so awkward because I didn't know what to do. And it was so weird because I had also brought my camera with me in like a little bag because I wanted to take pictures. That's my lie. That's what I always have going on. I'm like, I'll take photos of you because I take good photos. And I still have photos of this dude to this day because I still think I did bomb ass editing on them. But what ended up happening was we kissed for a bit, and then I remember pulling back for a second to be like, I've never done this before. And I was apologizing, so I was like, this is probably really awkward because I don't know what to do. And eventually it led to him driving us down a nearby street, which, by the way, the area that this place was like a shopping area, small town kind of vibe, kind of like the downtown area I took you to recently, where like it's that shopping area, but then like surrounding it is like where people live. And so we went down a nearby street, like not too far away, to the point like where we could just walk back or something. But we parked on this street, and it was like a street where there were people like who lived there. And I remember at this point, I was getting slightly more into it, slightly more comfortable. It was still horrible because of how the positioning was of it. He was in a seat away from me, and there was a console in the middle, so there was a lot of questionable things happening. But I remember we started like making out in front of someone's house.
Oh, what, just a random person's house?
Yes. And I remember we were sitting there making out, and the person who lived at the house came up to look at us because they were like, why are these two gay boys making out on my front lawn? Like, essentially is what was happening. Well, here's the thing, Shitty. I want to say 18 or 19 at the time, and this was right when I started college, so I was a teenager. He was not, though. He was in his 20s. And I remember it was so awkward. But then we ended up driving away, and then because of that, I feel like it was less awkward after the fact, but it was horrible when it first happened. And I remember that entire time I felt so awkward because I had never done like any kind of physical touch or something like that with another dude, even though I am faggot. So it was very crazy. And then the rest of the time, because we stayed there probably for at least a solid 4 or 5 hours, because we were like just talking and walking around.
In that person's front yard?
No, around the area. Yeah, that person in particular's front yard. And it was actually a pretty nice date after that, because we were just walking and talking, and like we would occasionally like do a smooch or something rather than full on make out sesh, because you know we already had that in front of some random person's house. And yeah, other than that initial awkwardness, it was actually a pretty nice date. And then I spent many times over at his apartment. That's a X-rated pod story for a different time. Don't have your horny French laugh at me. But yeah, that's the spiciest I will go on the pod. But I have had another date in that general area that was, I would say, the second worst date that I've ever had in my life. Because it was that bad. So yeah. Anyways, that's what I'll end it on. And next week, we have a special guest.
You get to be French all of a sudden.
I am. Mine's not horny French. Mine's excited French. We get to have a special guest, and we're gonna do a very fun thing, and y'all are gonna see. So stay tuned, look forward, have fun, and talk to y'all later. Goodbye. I was just waiting until she cut out.